No time to clean up. I tucked the small black envelope into the flying book, and I ran out the back door with the book. I tore out to the garage and slid the book back into the folds of the old mattress. Jack, we're home, Dad shouted through the house. Where are you? I heard Mom call. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. I burst through the back door, into the kitchen. Whoa, what happened in here? Dad gazed around the room, wide-eyed. Mom sniffed the air. What is that horrible smell? In here, I stalled, trying to come up with a good excuse. Mom and Dad nodded, staring at me, waiting for an explanation. Ooh, you mean in here, I said, sweeping an arm through the air. Just a science experiment. For school. It didn't quite work out. I woke up really early the next morning. I wanted to try to fly again. Before school. Before Mom and Dad woke up. I dressed quickly. I walked silently into the kitchen. Hey, Jack, you're up early. Dad sat at the kitchen table, eating breakfast. It's only 5 a.m. I couldn't sleep, I said, shocked to find him there. What are you doing up? The phone woke me up. It was a guy who said he had an act one had to see, Nelson and his amazing needles. I gulped. What does this guy do? Well, Nelson is not a guy, Dad started to explain. Nelson is a chimpanzee, and his needles are knitting needles. His owner says Nelson can knit a sweater in 10 minutes. Sleeves and all. A monkey that knits. I let out a long sigh. Dad sighed, too. Well, the phone call wasn't a total waste. At least I'll get an early start today, Dad said, finishing his breakfast. By the time he left, Mom was out of bed. Too late to try to fly now. I'll have to wait till after school. Mom will be at work. Dad won't be home either. That's when I'll fly for Mia, I decided. I couldn't wait. When the last bell rang, I charged out of school before Mia and Willson could catch up. I didn't talk to them all day. I didn't want to talk to them now. I was afraid I might give away my secret. Afraid I might tell them that I could fly. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to show them. I ran all the way home. I threw down my backpack. Poured myself a tall glass of orange juice. For strength. Then I phoned Mia. No answer. She wasn't home yet. Till give her 10 more minutes, I thought, heading into my bedroom. Then foo call again. I sat down at my desk and started sketching my newest superhero, me. I drew myself soaring high over the Hollywood hills. Sailing way above the big Hollywood sign. Maybe I should tell Mom and Dad I can fly, I thought as I sketched. That way I won't have to hide. That way I can fly whenever I want. No way, I decided. They'll think it's way too dangerous. They'll probably think I'm weird, that there is something wrong with me. And they won't let me do it. I definitely cannot tell them. I have to keep this a secret. I held my drawing up and studied it. It needed one last thing. Then it would be perfect. A superhero cape. As I sketched in the cape, I thought about Willson. Willson, and the sick look on his face when he realized that our competition was over for all time. When he realized that he could never win against me again, ever. When he saw me flying. I jumped up from my desk and phoned Mia. Still no answer. I wandered over to my bedroom window and peered outside. Hey, there she was, in front of Wilson's house. With Willson. Willson was skating down his driveway on his fancy, new inline skates. At the end of the driveway, he had set up a small ramp, and he was rolling full speed straight for it. He flew up the ramp, and soared into the air. Yahoo! He shouted, shooting his fists up as he swooped down for a perfect landing. Mia applauded. Ah, you think that's flying, Willson? I thought, your days of showing off are over. Watch this. I opened my window as high as I could. I marched across my room, through the bedroom doorway and out into the hall. I inhaled deeply, and took a running start. I charged through my bedroom. I leapt out my bedroom window. I spread my arms wide, and fell like a rock. Oof. I landed on my back in the soft hedges below my window. The fall knocked the breath out of me. I lay there dazed for about a minute, my chest aching, struggling to breathe. I moved my arms and legs. They seemed to be okay. Nothing broken. What went wrong? Can I still fly? I wondered. Maybe the secret recipe lasts for only one flight. Or maybe I have to take off from the ground. That could be it. Maybe I'm not supposed to leap into flight. Jack, are you okay? Mia ran over to me. What happened? Did you fall out of the window? Nobody falls out a bedroom window, nobody, but Jack. Willson hooted. How klutzy do you have to be to fall out a window? I did not fall out my bedroom window, I protested. I didn't know what else to say. Yes, you did, Jack. We saw you. We saw the whole thing. Willson snickered. He turned to Mia with a smirk on his face. Bet Jack was practicing Twister again. I climbed to my feet. I stared down as I brushed myself off. Stared down so I wouldn't have to look at either one of them. Jack, come with me. Willson tugged my arm. I want to show you something. Something really important. It could save your life one day. It's called a door. Mia giggled. I knocked Wilson's hand away. I could feel the blood rushing to my face. Okay, Willson. That's it. I've had enough of you and your bragging and your stupid jokes. I took a deep breath. I want to show you both something, I announced. I placed my feet close together. I lifted my arms and pointed them in the air. Hope this works, I prayed. Hope I don't look like a total jerk. I raised myself up on my toes. Here goes. Dot. Dot. I bent my knees. I took a deep breath. I shut my eyes. Prepared to take off. Jack. Jack. Where are you? A voice called. I opened my eyes. I lowered my arms slowly. Jack. It was Mom. Home early from work. She poked her head out my bedroom window. I let out a long sigh. What is it, Mom? Jack, I meant to catch you before you went out. This spring cleaning is too much for one person. I need some help cleaning Dad's closet. Can you come in and give me a hand? Okay, Mom. Be right there. Mom ducked back inside. Jack. Mom popped her head back out. Yeah, is Morty okay? He hasn't left his doghouse since yesterday. Don't worry, Mom. He's okay. He got a lot of exercise yesterday. He's just kind of pooped. Actually, I tried to get Morty to come out of his doghouse this morning. But he wouldn't budge. The poor dog was probably afraid he'd float away again. Willson headed back to his house. Mia followed. She turned back to me. Meet us after you're finished helping your mom, she suggested. Over at Wilson's. Yeah, sure, I said, not really planning to. You have to try his skating ramp, Mia said. He built it himself, and it's really awesome. It really sends you flying through the air. I watched them cross the street. Flying through the air, Mia's words repeated in my mind. I shook my head. I'll show you how to fly through the air, Willson. Just wait. The next afternoon, I ran all the way home from school. I told Mia and Jack to meet me in front of my house. They thought we were going to rollerblade. I had something much better in mind for today. Today was the day I was going to show them that I could fly. Dot. I dropped my backpack in the hall and ran outside. I glanced up, at the dark, heavy clouds rolling in over the hills. By the time Mia and Jack showed up, it started to rain, really hard. A bolt of lightning snaked through the sky. We'll have to wait until tomorrow, Mia said. I guess, I mumbled as I watched them hurry away. It rained the next day. And the day after that. And the day after that. No flying. No chance to show Willson what a loser he is. I sat at the window, staring out at the falling raindrops. Was I ever going to get my chance to fly? On Friday, Mia had to go to the dentist after school. And on Saturday and Sunday, we couldn't get together. I had to work on my term paper. It was due on Monday, and I hadn't even started it. I wasn't worried about it. I knew exactly what I was going to write about, the history of comic books in the United States. It was going to be excellent. I knew it. I got up early Saturday morning and started working on it right away. I sat at my computer for hours. It took me all day to write. Then, on Sunday, I set out my pens and inks and began to illustrate it. Superman, Spider-Man, Submariner, the X-Men, all my favorite superheroes. As I drew the big S on Superman's costume, I thought about flying. About how awesome it felt when I soared on a strong current. Or sailed on a gentle breeze. I pictured myself zooming up from the ground and streaking over the trees. Then slowing down, drifting lazily among the clouds. Then blasting off again, into the stratosphere, like Superman. I pictured myself performing all kinds of fancy feats, spirals, nosedives, backflips in the air. I pictured myself doing all these things, for Mia. And for Willson. We handed in our term papers on Monday. A rainy Monday. No flying today either. I sighed. Whoever heard of so much rain in California? The rest of the week remained gray and stormy. The whole week, a total washout. On Friday, the teacher handed back our term papers. Yes, I got a 97. And she wrote, "Good job," across the top. Hey, Willson, look, 97. I held up my paper for him to see. Pretty good, Huh, that is pretty good, Willson agreed. But it's not excellent. Willson smiled gleefully. He held up his paper. It had a big, fat 98 written on it. And the words, excellent job. I could feel my cheeks begin to burn. Stay calm, I told myself. It won't rain forever. I woke up the next morning. I bolted to the window, pushed the curtains aside. The warm rays of the sun splashed across my face. All right, I pumped both fists into the air. I called Willson and Mia and told them to meet me in the park. Right away. Mia arrived first. Willson showed up a few minutes later, waving excitedly. Hey, guys, big news. He charged over to us. Guess where FM going on spring break? Where? Mia asked eagerly. New York City, he exclaimed. My parents are taking me to New York City. Can you believe it? That's great. Mia cheered. She slapped him a high five. Where are you going for spring break, Jackie? Willson asked. Nowhere. My parents have to work, I murmured. Hey, bad break, Willson said. But I could tell he didn't mean it. Of course, my trip is no big deal, he went on. I've been to New York before. 4 times. 4 times. Mia cried. Really? Yeah, Willson replied. 4 times. And the last time I was there, I rode the subway, by myself. You're right, Willson, I thought. New York City is no big deal. Because no one is going to care about your bragging in a few seconds. Hey, Willson, want to race? I asked. You can practice running for the subway. Not funny, Jackie, Willson replied. Anyway, what's the point of a race? You know you can't run as fast as I can. Come on, I urged. Race you to the flagpole and back. I'll beat you this time, Willson. Really, no way you can win. He shrugged. But, okay, this was it. My big moment. My heart began to pound. I was going to win the race. And shock them both, because I was going to fly. Willson and I stood side by side. On your mark. Get set, Mia announced. I raised my arms high, pointed them to the sky. Willson turned to me, staring at my odd racing position. Go, Mia cried. I took a running leap, and blasted off the ground. I soared up over the grass. Into the air, up toward the treetops. Yes, I was flying. WHOOOAAA. Mia shrieked in amazement as I soared with the wind. Now for the best part. I peered down to the ground to see the sick look on Wilson's face. I peered down, and screamed in surprise. Below me, I saw Willson. He was right below me. Inches away from me. Willson was flying, too. No, I shrieked. No WAAAAY. I was so shocked, so totally horrified, I dropped my arms to my sides. Oh, no. I went into a steep dive. I uttered a weak cry as the ground shot up to meet me, fast. I kicked my legs, swung my arms up frantically, and flew headfirst into a tree trunk. Oh, pain shot through my body as I sank to the grass. Sprawled on my back, I raised my eyes to Willson. I clutched my stomach, sickened at the sight of him. Willson, flying. Willson, soaring easily to the flagpole and back. I watched as he gently swooped down. I win, Jackie, he exclaimed, making a smooth landing beside me. How did you do that? Mia screamed with excitement. Willson planted his hands on his hips. Ah, it's easy, he bragged. Nothing to it. I opened my mouth to speak, but only a tiny squeak came out. Willson laughed. Jackie, you need some propellers or something. Your jets are kind of slow. My heart sank. How, I sputtered. Oh, I've always known how to fly, Willson said. Really? Mia cried. Not really, he laughed. Jackie taught me how. No, I didn't. I managed to choke out. Yes, you did, Jack. You just didn't know it. Willson hooted. I saw you flying the day I got my new rollerblades. How did you see him flying? Mia demanded. I was with you. How come I didn't see him? Don't you remember? Willson replied. I was skating way ahead of you, because you couldn't keep up with me. So I skated over to Jack's house to show him my new blades, and I saw him fly. I stood up slowly. I faced Willson, ready to punch out his lights. I admitted, I was out of control. He had ruined my big moment. Ruined it. I wanted to punch him like a punching bag. But somehow I kept myself together. I clenched my fists until they ached. I had to find out exactly how he learned to fly. So, you saw me. I narrowed my eyes. Then what? Then I followed you to your garage. I saw you hide the book in the mattress. And so I borrowed it, and I followed the easy instructions. He grinned at Mia, FM like a real superhero. He puffed out his chest. I love it. He turned back to me. Hey, Jack, you can be my sidekick. Don't want to be your sidekick, Willson. I want to win. Just once. Just once. I want to beat you. That's what I thought, but I didn't say it. I didn't say anything. I just stomped away. Face it, I told myself glumly as I headed out of the park. You'll never beat Willson at anything. Jack, come back. Mia called. I want to see you fly again. No way, I thought. What was the point now? I kept walking. Please, Jack. Mia cried. You looked so awesome up there. Please do it again. I stopped. Maybe I should fly for Mia. Impress her with some fancy flying maneuvers. Okay, I decided. I'll fly one more time, to impress her. I took a deep breath. Then, with my arms stretched out in front of me, I zoomed up. Up to the treetops. Go, Jack. Go, Jack. Go, Jack. Mia chanted, smiling and waving. I banked to the left and glided through a big fluffy cloud. When I broke through the other side, Willson was there to meet me. We flew side by side, looping, diving, then soaring back up. We matched movement for movement, as if we'd practiced together 1,000 times. Then Willson swooped away from me. He rolled under me, jetted behind me, rolled under me again. Yahoo! I heard him scream from somewhere above me. I floundered in the air. I didn't know where Willson was. Where he was going to turn up next. He circled me, like a mad bird. Willson, I yelled. Cut it out. Lighten up, Jackie, he laughed. Then, he moved in front of me, blocking my path. Blocking my view. Get out of the way. I screamed. I'm going to crash into you. Willson let out a roar, like a plane. Then took a steep dive. Now I could see. Too late. I smacked hard into a flagpole. I could hear Wilson's cruel laugh as I tumbled to the ground. Excellent landing, Jackie, he called. He dropped easily to the grass in front of Mia. Mia clapped and cheered. Well, I have to go. I'm late for my tennis game. Want to come? Willson asked me. I don't play tennis, I replied between clenched teeth. Oh, I thought you did, he said, puzzled. Ray and Ethan told me you were taking lessons. Well, got to go. Willson hurried off. Jack, I want to fly too. Please teach me how to fly. Mia begged. I don't know, Mia. I started. I wanted to keep this kind of secret. I mean, nobody knows about it. Except you and Willson. If we're all flying around Malibu, somebody will find out. I hated to admit it, but I really didn't want Mia to learn how to fly. Jack, you have to show me how. It isn't fair that you and Willson can fly and I can't, she wailed. It isn't fair. Whoa, wait a minute, I told myself. Maybe I should teach Mia how to fly. If I'm the one to teach her, she'll really be impressed. This could be my big chance. Okay, I agreed. I'll teach you how to fly. Let's go back to my house. We'll get the flying book. Thank you, Jack. Mia was so excited, she hugged me. I led the way to our garage. Ooh, I can't wait. Mia jumped with glee. I stopped in front of the garage door. What are you waiting for, Jack? Open it, she cried impatiently. Weird. It's closed, I said, confused. The garage door is never closed. So, open it, Mia demanded. I reached for the handle. I tugged up the garage door, and cried out in shock. Gone. Everything, gone. The dentist's spit sink. Mrs. Green's cool steps. The old mattress. All gone. I stared at the empty garage in shock. Oh, no. Dad cleaned out the garage, I moaned unhappily. Mia, I can't teach you how to fly. The book is gone. You read the book, Jack. You have to remember what it said. Mia protested. I want to fly. Think. You've got to remember. It's no use, I told her. We need the secret ingredient. It was in an envelope. Inside the book. It's gone. Mia shook her head and uttered an angry groan. Then a look of calm came over her face. That's okay, Jack. Maybe it's just as well. This flying thing is kind of scary. So, you're not angry at me? I asked her. No, she replied. It really wasn't your fault. You know what I think, Jack. I shook my head. No, what? I think you shouldn't fly anymore. Or maybe you should tell your parents about it. I mean, it's not normal. I have a very bad feeling about it. I shrugged. Jack, I'm not kidding. I don't think you should fly anymore. It's not safe. But I don't want to stop, I protested. It's so much fun. It's awesome. Totally awesome up there. Besides, what could happen? That night after dinner, I hurried to my room to work on a new superhero drawing. I drew the outline of his figure. I was going to call him Captain Arrow. I shoved my chair away from my desk. Stared out the window for a while. Returned to my drawing. I drew a purple leather quiver over Captain Arrow's shoulder, to hold his powerful crimson arrows. I got up. Looked outside again. I don't know, drawing superheroes seemed kind of boring now. I left my room to find Dad. To ask him to shoot some baskets outside with me. I found Dad, and Mom, snoozing on the couch in the living room. I called Ethan and Ray to see if they wanted to play, but they couldn't. They both had homework to do. Tiptoeing through the hall, I left the house through the back door. I stood in the backyard and gazed up at the stars. It was a perfect night. Warm. Not a cloud in the sky. A perfect night for a short flight over Malibu. I glanced around, to make sure no one was watching. Then I soared up into the night sky. Over the rooftops. Over the trees. Over the beach. I took a deep breath. The ocean air smelled so fresh, so sweet up here. A light breeze blew through my hair. So peaceful. So quiet. So free. Soaring high. Gazing out. Surrounded by nothing but twinkling stars. I picked up speed. The wind rushed at my face. My t-shirt rippled against my chest. The stars streamed by. The ocean rolled darkly beneath me. I gazed down at the Malibu hills. Then headed toward Los Angeles. I flew over the city. The lights below sparkled for miles. I flew faster. Barrel rolled to the left. Then to the right. Then headed into a loop, flying upside down. Awesome. Totally awesome. I'm so lucky. I can sail. Glide. Soar. I can fly. I whooped, spinning in the air. I glided for a while on my back, gazing up at the stars. Trying to identify the constellations. Then I spun around and peered down, into total darkness. No porch lights. No street lamps. No headlights from cars. No houses. No buildings. Total darkness. A wave of panic swept over me. How did this happen? Where is the city? Where am I? How long have I been flying? I groaned. How far have I flown? I didn't know. I swooped down, searching for a dim light somewhere. But all I saw was darkness. Complete darkness. I turned around, heading back home, I hoped. Swooping lower, searching for a familiar sight. Finally I spotted a string of lights. A freeway. But which freeway? I couldn't tell. My heart pounded in my chest. Cold beads of sweat prickled my forehead. I'm lost, I realized, shivering in cold dread. I am miles and miles from home. Totally lost. I landed in the tall grass on the side of the freeway. I started to walk, searching for a sign to tell me where I was. I walked and walked. The night was quiet, except for the cars that roared by, and the creepy rustling sounds that escaped from the roadside bushes. I stared into the bushes. Saw them move. My heart began to beat faster. I broke into a jog. Cars and trucks whirred by me. A sharp chittering noise rang out from the dense thicket beside the highway. I could see dark eyes glowing in the bushes. Hey, a furry creature scuttled across my path. A raccoon. A skunk. I started to run. Up ahead I finally spotted a highway sign. I ran harder, panting now. Clouds of dirt rose up under my pounding sneakers. I could see the white letters on the sign, but I still couldn't make out what it said. As I ran toward it, a car pulled alongside me, and stopped. I spun around, and gasped. A police cruiser. Yes, I thought happily. The police. They'll help me get back home. Do you need help? One of the officers stepped out of the squad car. He tipped his cap back and stared into my eyes. Yes, I do. I'm kind of lost, I told him breathlessly. Can you take me home, to Malibu? What is your name? He asked. Jack. Well, Jack, you're pretty far from Malibu. How did you get here? He asked. I didn't answer. What could I say? I flew here. They'd take me back all right. And lock me up, with all the other crazy people in Los Angeles. Jack, did someone drive you here? I shook my head no. Well, did you just drop out of the sky? He sounded as if he was losing his patience. I shrugged my shoulders lamely. Get in the car, Jack, the officer nodded toward the car door. We'll find your parents for you. Oh, no, I suddenly changed my mind. I can't let them take me back, I decided, shaking in panic. What will I tell Mom and Dad? How will I explain to them how I got here? I edged away. The officer reached out to me. Get in, Jack. We'll help you. No thanks, I told him. I raised both arms over my head. And took off. Gazing down, I saw the other officer leap out of the car. The two of them stood side by side, gaping up at me with their mouths open wide. I followed the lights of the highway. I didn't know what else to do. Finally the buildings of Los Angeles came back into view. I let out a long sigh of relief. Then I turned in midair and flew home to Malibu. I landed quietly behind the garage. I smoothed out my hair, straightened my t-shirt. I took a deep breath and sneaked into the house. I could hear my parents in the living room, talking. I stopped in the kitchen and listened. Were they talking about me? Did they notice I was gone? I don't know where else to look, I heard Dad say. I've searched everywhere. My heart began to pound. What am I going to tell them? I held my breath and listened some more. I know, Mom exclaimed. We have to stay calm. You'll find a new client soon. Someone with real talent. I just know it. I breathed a long sigh of relief. They didn't notice. Next time, I have to be more careful, I promised myself. Much more careful. Mia is right. Flying can be really dangerous. Especially if you don't know where you're flying. I tiptoed to my room and closed the door. The phone rang. Are you ready for the big race tomorrow? It was Willson. What race? I asked. I told Mr. Grossman that we're going to put on a race for the whole school tomorrow, Willson declared. What kind of race? I asked him. A race they'll never forget. One I am. Are you crazy? I yanked Willson aside in gym class the next morning. We can't race. I screamed. Come on. Be a good sport. Willson grinned. You're just steamed because you know you're going to lose. On the other side of the gym, I could hear Mr. Grossman announcing the race to the class. A special race, I heard him say. Willson promises we're all in for a big surprise. I ran my hand through my hair. Willson, don't you see what you've done? My voice grew high. When everyone finds out that we can fly, our lives will be ruined. Willson shrugged, then bent down to tie his sneaker. I don't know what you're so worried about. This is going to be way cool. I glanced around the gym. The empty gym. The entire class had emptied outside, waiting for the race to begin. Ready, boys. Mr. Grossman popped his head in the doorway. Ready. Willson called back. Willson tugged me through the halls. The empty halls. Come on, Jack. The whole school is out there. The whole school. Out there. Every kid in Malibu Middle School was going to watch us fly. This was a total disaster. If we went ahead with this, I knew that my life would never be the same again. We stepped onto the playground. I squinted in the bright sunlight. Squinted at the crowd of kids, huddled along the running track, waiting for the race to start. Someone tugged on my t-shirt sleeve. It was Mia. Jack, why are you doing this? She asked, her eyes wide with fear. Willson told me you're going to fly. I don't want to, I stammered. But I can't do anything about it. I have no choice. Mia shielded her eyes with her hand and glanced over at Willson. Her ruby red heart ring sparkled in the sun. We both watched Willson as he stretched out at the starting line. I'm so worried about the two of you, she said, her eyes locked on Willson. I gazed into the crowd. Kids shifted restlessly from one foot to the other. Watching. Waiting. I wanted to run away. Run home and hide. Hey, Jack. Ray called out from the crowd. Go for it. You can beat him. Ethan stood next to him, pumping his fist in the air. Willson is ready. Mr. Grossman jogged over to me. How about you, Jack? The kids began to chant. Race. 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 My temples were throbbing. My t-shirt felt wet against my skin, drenched with sweat. What was I going to do? Zero. I had to race. I knew I had no choice. I had to race, and I had to win. I stepped up to Willson. Ready, Jackie? He grinned his horrible Willson grin. I nodded. Mr. Grossman raised the starting flag. On your marks. Get set. Go. Willson and I took off. We shot into the air. With my arms straight out in front of me, I blasted ahead. I soared higher, higher, and zoomed to the other end of the playground, leaving Willson far behind. Yes, I was winning. Finally. I was finally beating him. I turned in midair, dipped, and headed back to the other end of the playground. I glanced behind me. Willson was soaring fast, catching up. He sailed alongside me. See you, Jackie, he smirked. Then he flew ahead. Oh, no, you don't, Willson. Not again. I held my body straight as an arrow, and jetted forward. We flew side by side now. I could see the muscles in his face straining as he tried to pick up speed. But he couldn't. He couldn't pull ahead of me. The other end of the playground was coming up fast. With my eyes trained to the finish line, I soared with all my strength. We reached the line at the same time. I dropped to the ground. A tie. I cried out breathlessly. It's a tie. Willson hadn't won. Hey, Willson. Willson. I searched the school grounds. Then I glanced up. There he was, hovering over my head. Lap number 2, he cried. And took off. I sprinted into the air. Too late. Willson finished the second lap, and won the race. Nice going, Jackie, Willson clapped me on the shoulder. I knew I could count on you to lose, he hooted. That wasn't fair, I started. Hey, what's their problem? He interrupted me, pointing to the crowd of kids. The quiet crowd. No cheers. No clapping. They stared at us in stunned silence. I turned to Mr. Grossman. His jaw hung open. He gaped at us, speechless. I slowly walked over to Ray and Ethan, staring into their unsmiling faces. So, guys, what did you think? Why didn't you tell us you could fly? Ray's face broke out into a wide grin. I wanted to surprise you. I said, relieved. Awesome. Totally awesome. Ethan shouted. Can you teach us how? I'm sorry. I can't. I apologized. I told them the whole story, about how I found the book and lost it, as we headed back into school. Our basketball team will win every game now. Ray exclaimed. Forget about slam dunks. You'll be the first player ever to do a fly dunk. Ray and Ethan were really excited about my flying. But, later, as I walked to my classroom, I could feel the stares from the other kids. Hear their whispers. Everyone was talking about me. Some shrank back as I approached. They were afraid of me. That afternoon, I walked through the halls with my head down. I couldn't stand all the whispers, all the stares. Jack, the school nurse darted from her office and snatched me out of the hall. There are some people here who want to meet you. 2 men and 2 women stood stiffly in the nurse's office. 1 man and 1 woman were dressed in business suits. The other 2 wore khaki pants and t-shirts. They smiled warmly at me. These people are scientists from the university, the nurse started to explain. They've heard about your, special talent, and they want to examine you in Willson. I took a step back. One of the men moved toward me. If you really can fly, think of how useful you can be to our government, perhaps as a secret weapon against our enemies. I swallowed hard. The woman in the khaki pants stuck out her hand. Come with us, Jack. She shot a nervous glance at the others. Nothing bad will happen to you. The others peered at me over their eyeglasses. They nodded eagerly in agreement. We just want to look you over. You know, do a few experiments on you. In our lab. No, I don't want to be a lab specimen. I don't want to be a secret weapon. I shouted at them. Startled by my cries, the scientists leapt back, and I bolted from the room. Jack, come back, the school nurse called after me. I raced frantically through the halls, smashing into kids, shoving them out of my way. Jack, we won't hurt you. I heard one of the scientists call. With my head down, I charged ahead, zigzagging through the crowded halls, elbowing the kids who got in my way. Hey, watch it. Angry voices trailed me as I burst through the school doors and jumped down the steps. I ran all the way home. I didn't stop. I didn't glance back. I ran hard, even though my lungs felt as if they were about to burst. I opened my front door with a bang. Then, slammed it shut and leaned against it, gasping for breath. Jack, Dad called from the living room. Why was Dad home in the middle of the afternoon? I walked into the living room, and found both my parents waiting for me. Dad stood with his hands shoved deep into his pants pockets. Jack, our phone has been ringing all afternoon, he said sternly. We heard about you. About what you did in school today. I glanced over at Mom. She gave a solemn nod. You are in a lot of trouble. Dad sounded really angry now. I gulped. Why? What are you going to do? What do you think we should do, Jack? Dad paced back and forth in front of me. We can't believe you didn't tell us sooner. Sorry, I muttered. I wanted to tell you I could fly. But, quote. Dad's expression changed. His eyes flashed with excitement. If you really can fly, you're going to be the hottest act in the country. You're going to be a superstar, Jack. You're going to make millions. Mom's face broke into a wide smile. We finally found it, Dad said to her. I can't believe it. All this time we've been searching everywhere, and it was right under our own roof. We finally found the big act. Step right up, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the grand opening of Marv's Malibu Motors. Marvin Milstein stood on a towering platform. He shouted into a bullhorn, gathering a huge crowd in front of his new car lot. I stood inside the showroom. I peeked outside, watching the crowd grow. Hundreds of people jammed into the parking lot. Hundreds more tried to shove their way in. They crammed in tightly, shoulder to shoulder under the hot sun, and waited for me, the amazing flying boy. Yes, Marv continued to shout. The amazing flying boy is here. In just a moment, you will see him fly over our new shipment of Silver Hawks. The Silver Hawk. Marv pointed across the lot to a shiny, silver car turning slowly on a revolving platform. The car that soars so smoothly, you'll swear the wheels never touch the ground. The people packed themselves in tighter, every inch of ground taken up by the crowd. I could hear the buzz of the crowd over Marv's bullhorn. Where is the flying boy? Can he really fly? I heard a little kid cry. A lump formed in my throat. Mom came up behind me and placed a hand on my shoulder. You look great, Jack. I stared down at the costume Mom had made for me. A silvery superhero costume, metallic sneakers, and a shiny silver cape. Can you believe this crowd? Dad exclaimed. 10 TV stations are out there with their news crews. And tons of reporters, from every newspaper in the state. They're all here to see you, Jack. I don't know, Dad. I stared out at the growing crowd. Are you sure this is a good idea? A good idea? No, I don't think this is a good idea. It's a great idea. It's an unbelievable idea, he cried. And it's just the start, Jack. Soon you'll have your own TV show. Your own movies. Your own action figures. The mob outside grew impatient. Are you ready? Malibu Marv shouted into the bullhorn, pumping up the crowd. Yes. Their reply thundered in my ears. It's time, Jack. Dad's eyes lit up with excitement. I was supposed to fly over the car lot, carrying an advertising banner. Dad handed it to me. It read, "Fly with the Silver Hawk, only at Malibu Marv's." I stepped outside and climbed the platform steps to take my place next to Marv. I stared down at the crowd, at their waiting faces, at the doubt in their eyes. Then I took off, and the crowd let out a startled gasp. I flew around the lot carrying the banner, staring down at the people as they gaped up at me. He's flying. He's really flying. I heard someone shout. I searched the faces below, trying to find Mia, Ethan, or Ray. I hadn't seen them in days. I soared around the entire car lot, but I couldn't spot them in the crowd. You're seeing a miracle, folks. Marv's amplified voice floated up to me. And our Silver Hawk prices are a miracle, too. The next morning, Dad brought in reporters from Time and Newsweek to interview me. The reporters asked me tons of questions. When did you learn to fly? Can you teach other kids how to do it? What was in the secret recipe you ate? What were the magic words you chanted? Then their photographers snapped pictures of me flying around the backyard. People and TV guides showed up next. They asked the same questions. Took the same pictures. Mia called. She asked me to go skating with her that afternoon. I wanted to go, but I couldn't. Someone from the Wall Street Journal was coming to interview me. I wanted to tell them to talk to TV Guide, get the answers from them. But I knew Mom and Dad wouldn't like that. They were working really hard to get me all these interviews. See you later. I called to Mom and Dad the next morning. I was going to the park to shoot some hoops with Ray and Ethan. Whoa, wait up. Dad charged into the kitchen. Where are you going? To play basketball with my friends. I won't be home late, I told him. Sorry, Jack, but you can't go. Why not? I asked, confused. I don't have any interviews today. Because basketball isn't the right kind of exercise for a flying superhero. Dad patted me on the back. You have to do sit-ups, push-ups, run some laps, build up your strength and stamina. To fly your best. He pushed me toward the door. You have to work out every day, Jack. Every day. Now, let's get started. I'll work with you in the backyard. I didn't see Ray or Ethan or Mia that whole week. I had more interviews to do. And exercises. And costume fittings. And I did a flying act. Appearance at the opening of a new restaurant in Santa Monica. Finally Saturday arrived. Mom and Dad said it was my day off. No interviews. No exercises. No jobs. I could do whatever I wanted. I got up early to go rollerblading with Mia. As I headed out the door, Mom stopped me. Jack, you can't go out like that. Like what? I asked, staring down at my t-shirt and cut-off jeans. Like that, she said, pointing to my clothes. You're a superstar now. You have to wear your flying costume when you go out. So your fans won't be disappointed. But, Mom, I protested. I can't wear my cape to go skating. No way I'm going to wear silver tights in the park. I called Mia and told her I couldn't go. I shuffled glumly into the living room and turned on the TV. I knew that flying in front of the whole school was a big mistake. I knew it would ruin my life. I knew it. I hadn't seen my friends in weeks. I'd probably never see them again. I'm going to spend my whole life flying around in a dumb costume, never having any fun. I realized. I flipped aimlessly through the channels. I flipped and flipped, watching the programs flash by on the screen. And then I stopped, when I saw Willson. Willson on TV. Willson, wearing a really cool superhero costume that sparkled with neon glitter. My eyes grew wide as I watched him. He soared around a mountaintop, rescuing people off its steep cliffs. We will return to Wonder Willson and his amazing rescues in just a moment, the TV announcer said. Huh, Wonder Willson and his amazing rescues. I shook my head. I'm doing restaurant openings, and Willson already has his own TV show. I wailed. Can't I ever beat Willson? Ever. I heard a knock on the door. I was glad to leave the room before Wonder Willson came back on TV. I opened the door, and saw 3 serious-looking men in green uniforms standing there. Army uniforms. Jack Johnson, one of them asked sternly. I nodded yes. Good. He reached out his hand. You'll have to come with us. I stood in the middle of a drab green room. An army lab, with no windows. The room smelled like a doctor's office. You know, that heavy alcohol smell. I glanced over at the door. A solid steel bolt sealed it shut. A chair with suction cups stuck all over the back and seat stood in one corner of the room. Electrical wires streamed from each cup. I imagined that was what a prison electric chair looked like. No way I'd ever sit on it. My heart began to pound as a group of army scientists in white lab coats circled me. They stared at me, their eyes moving up and down my body. They wrote on clipboards they held in their hands. Then they stared at me some more. Okay, Jack, we are going to perform a few tests. Are you ready? One of the scientists asked. No, I shouted. I am not ready. I want to go home. Sorry, Jack, the scientist said. We can't let you go just yet. Now, please come with us. They led me outside to a wide courtyard. The courtyard was covered with canvas. I felt as if I were in an enormous circus tent. As soon as we were closed in, the scientists began shouting commands at me. Fly on your back. Fly on your belly. Fly with your eyes closed. Fly with your legs crossed. Hold your breath and fly. Hold your ears and fly. Hold your thoughts and fly. They ordered me to fly 1,000 different ways. They wouldn't stop. They wouldn't let me rest until I was panting like a dog. One scientist handed me a bottle of cold water. He motioned for me to sit down on the ground. They formed a circle around me. Okay, Jack, another scientist said. Time for some questions. First tell us, how long have you been flying? Same questions, all over again. Only for a few weeks, I replied. All the scientists scribbled down my answer. How did you learn to fly? He asked. Didn't you guys read Time or Newsweek or TV Guided? I asked. Just answer the question, Jack, the scientist said sternly. I ate a special formula, I answered, rolling my eyes impatiently. The scientists' heads jerked up from their clipboards. What was in the special formula? I don't remember, I replied. Yes, you do, Jack. The scientist stepped closer to me. He stared hard into my eyes. Now tell us. I thought hard, trying to recall what was in the recipe. But I couldn't. I really don't remember. I stammered. Think harder, Jack, he demanded. You know what was in it. Tell us. My heart pounded in my chest. I don't remember. I'm telling you the truth. I really don't remember. The scientists didn't believe me. They waited. Stared at me with unblinking eyes. Waiting for my answer. I peered down at my sneakers to escape their hard stares. Where were my parents? Did they know I was here? I could feel a bead of sweat trickle down my back. Please, let me go. I begged. Sorry, Jack, one of the scientists said. First you have to answer the question. But I can't. I told you, I don't remember. I cried. Okay, then we'll move on, the scientist said. The others nodded in agreement. I let out a sigh of relief. Jack, we're going back in there. The scientist led me to the little room. Now, sit in that chair. What are you going to do to me? I asked. More questions. Then more flying demonstrations. Then they hooked me up to the suction cups on the chair. That was the worst. It measured how fast my heart beat. How fast my pulse raced. How fast my eyes blinked. Hours and hours of measuring the slightest movements in my body. Down to a slight twitch. Then they shut me up in a metal tank and took some kind of laser pictures of me. Then they asked more questions. 10 hours later, Dad sat next to me on the living room couch, apologizing. I'm really sorry, Jack. They gave us no choice. They said you had to go with them. But they didn't tell us it would take so long. Dad sighed. I was so busy getting you flying jobs, I forgot to warn you they were coming. But forget about all that, Jack. I have great news. I've set up the race of a lifetime. Race? What kind of a race? I demanded. A race between you and Willson. Dad exclaimed. The amazing flying boy races Wonder Willson, your first appearance together. The winner will receive $1 million. Just think of it, Jack. $1 million. $1 million. I couldn't believe it. The race will be on TV all around the world. Dad stood and began pacing. 2 billion people will be watching. Wow, $1 million. And everyone in the world will see me fly like a superhero. And Willson and I will become the 2 most famous kids on Earth. This really was awesome. And if you win the race, son, it will be worth billions of dollars. Dad's hands flew up in the air as he talked. Think of the TV commercials you'll make. You'll be a star all around the world. I slowly got up from the couch. I have to go out for a walk, Dad. I need some time to think about all of this. I walked down the block, thinking about everything Dad said. Hey, there's the amazing flying boy, someone shouted from a passing car. That's him. There he is. The kid who flies. Shouts from other cars now. People pointing, cheering, waving, from almost every car that drove by. I walked faster, with my head down. Malibu Motors flying boy. Marv's flying kid. More shouts. The flying Johnson kid. I heard footsteps behind me. I glanced back. A group of kids were following me. I started to jog. Flying boy. Slow down. They began chasing me. Fly for us. Come on, take off. Fly around the block. I broke into a run. I ducked behind some bushes until they passed. Then I walked some more, keeping in the shadows. I am going to be the most famous kid on Earth, I thought, trying to cheer myself up. I am going to race in front of 2 billion people, and then my life will never be the same again. I am going to be rich and famous. Rich and famous. My stomach tightened. All my muscles tensed. Can I do it? Can I race in front of 2 billion people? And most important, can I finally beat Willson? One night the day of the big race. Mom, Dad, and I rode to the bottom of the Hollywood Hills. That's where the race would begin. Willson and I would take off from there. Then fly up to the Hollywood sign. Then back down again. Dad inched our car up to the grandstand. Thousands of people had turned out to watch Willson and me fly. Thousands of people watched as our car drove up. Their hands pressed against the car. Their staring eyes gawked at me through the windows. A mass of bodies and faces inching along with us. So many people, they blocked out the sunlight. I sat in the back seat in darkness, staring at the faces gaping in at me, listening to their shouts. That's him. He's here. Are you nervous? Can we talk to you before the race? What did you eat for breakfast? What are you going to do with all the money? Will you come to our school and fly? Are you from another planet? Hey, someone banged on the window, and I jumped. Can I have your autograph? He banged again. I shrank back in my seat. Pretty exciting, huh? Dad smiled in the rearview mirror. Jack, we love you. Jack, you're amazing. Jack, teach me how to fly. Cries rang out all around me. Dad parked the car. The crowd pressed against the doors, sealing us in. The car started to rock under their weight. My heart began to pound. I grabbed onto the seat so tightly my knuckles turned white. Coming through. Stand aside. A troop of policemen cleared a path to the car. The officers opened the door. I didn't move. Let's go, Jack. It's time, Dad said. On shaky legs, I stepped out of the car. A deafening roar rose up from the crowd. Jack, Jack, Jack. The chant thundered in my ears. The policemen formed a barricade, holding the shouting, cheering, chanting people back. I made my way to a big concrete platform built especially for the race. Arms reached out to touch me. Hands grabbed at my sleeves, grabbed at my cape, grabbed frantically, pulled me toward them. I struggled to walk, to pull free of the grasping hands. The policemen tried to hold the crowd back, but people surged forward in a heavy wave. They broke through the policeman's barrier, pressed against me, started to crush me. I was drowning in hands and legs and talking faces. A wave of panic washed over me. I lost Mom and Dad in the sea of bodies. The crowd swept over me, carried me with it. Jack, Jack, Jack. They shouted my name over and over. Mom, Dad. I tried to cry out over the roar of the mob. I couldn't see. I couldn't breathe. I gasped for air. I'm not going to make it, I realized. The crowd, it's swallowing me. Swallowing me up. Then I felt someone grab me under my shoulders. This way, Jack. 2 policemen guided me up the platform steps. 4 other dark uniformed officers surrounded me. When I reached the top, I took a deep breath and gazed out at the people. Thousands of people, stretching out for miles and miles. Jack. Someone shoved a microphone in my face. Jack. Over here. Another microphone. Jack. 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 Hundreds of microphones suddenly appeared before me. Cameras clicked. Do you think you can win? A reporter demanded. When did you learn to fly? Another reporter. 3 months. What was in the secret recipe? Another reporter. Everyone asking questions, all at once. Cameras clicking. Jack. 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 Everyone calling to me. I broke into a heavy, cold sweat. I tugged at the collar of my silver costume. Choking, I thought. It's choking me. The mob of people continued to call out my name. And Wilson's name. I glanced over to the other side of the platform. There he was. Willson, in his glittering superhero outfit. Hands planted on his hips. Chest puffed out. Laughing with the newspaper reporters. Smiling for the magazine writers. Boasting to the TV cameras. He loves this. I realized. How could he? How could anyone like this? We are about to begin, the announcer said to me as he waved Willson over. This is it. Willson clapped me on the back. I'm really sorry, Jackie. Sorry for what? I asked. Sorry to have to beat you in front of 2 billion people, he hooted. Good luck, Jackie. You'll need it. A striped-shirted referee asked us to shake hands before the race. I shook Wilson's hand and tried to crush his fingers. But Willson just grinned his horrible Willson grin. The race is about to begin. The announcer's voice boomed over the enormous loudspeaker. The crowd had been roaring. But now the roar faded to a whisper of hushed voices. The referee lifted a starter's pistol. I took a deep breath and held it. I shut my eyes and waited to hear the blast from the gun. Bang! If the gunshot echoed in my ears. I opened my eyes in time to watch Willson take off. His cape swirled behind him as he lifted toward the sky. I raised my arms. I leapt into the air and landed hard on my feet. A shocked gasp rose up from the crowd. I raised my arms again. They trembled as I pointed them to the sky. I bent my knees, then took a strong leap, and landed with a loud thud on the concrete platform. I could hear the gasps of the crowd. I could see their open mouths, their wide eyes. Stunned. They were all stunned. I tried again. Nothing. I glanced up to see Willson soaring high, nearing the big Hollywood sign. I can't fly. I cried out. I can't fly anymore. I've lost it. It's gone. Dad jumped onto the stage. His face was frantic. Try again. Try, Jack. Keep trying. I took a long, deep breath. I planted my feet together. I bent my knees and with all my might, I sprang up. And came down. Nothing. No use. I've lost it. I cried. I can't fly anymore. I can't fly. I gazed up and saw Willson soar over the Hollywood sign, turn, and start back. Willson wins again, I told myself. Willson wins again. As the summer passed, we didn't see much of Willson. He was busy flying all the time. His TV show was on every week. And he made dozens of flying appearances all over the country. In the fall, he had to leave Malibu Middle School because he was always traveling. Always making flying appearances. Always working, on the run. I saw on the TV news that the Army follows him wherever he goes, doing experiments on him. Trying to figure out how to get other people to fly. When Willson is home, he's too tired to see his old friends. Mia says it doesn't matter. She says hanging out with me is much more fun. I'm back to my old normal life. Morty is too. He finally came out of his doghouse. And he doesn't float off the ground anymore, not since I tied a 2-pound dog tag to his collar. Ethan and Ray and I are going to a Lakers game tonight. And tomorrow, Mia invited me to go to a Purple Rose concert with her. Next weekend we're taking tennis lessons together. We never talk about the big race and how Willson won. We never talk about flying at all. I've kept my secret from Mia. FBE kept my secret from everyone. I've never told anyone that I can still fly. And FBE never told anyone that I only pretended to lose my flying ability that morning of the race. Yes, you heard me. I only pretended. I let Willson win the race. Why? Because I knew that was the only way I could win. That was the only way I could get all those thousands of people out of my life. It was the only way I could get my friends back. The only way I could get my normal life back. The only way I could be happy. I told you, I'm not the kind of kid who likes to enter contests. I don't like to compete. I don't care about winning. So, I'm really lucky. Because even though I don't care about winning, I won after all. Sometimes, very late at night, I sneak out of the house. And I fly over Malibu, high over the ocean. I gaze down on the waves sparkling in the 122 moonlight. I soar with the winds and sail up toward the moon, feeling the cool ocean breezes on my face. And I think about how lucky I am. And how smart. And I wish Wonder Willson a lot of luck. Really. Add more to your collection.